Hi, everybody. So last on Monday, we saw a video about Impressionism, and we talked about mark making. And we also met my friend Alana Mandelson, whose work very much involves mark making. She really relies on it for her beautiful paintings. And what we did in class was we spent some time making marks with various kinds of processes. I'm not sure what all of you had at your home, but likely you made some marks with brushes or stamp processes or printmaking processes or sharp pieces of cardboard that gave you a variety of marks that you may or may not have been aware of before. So what we're going to do is a homework assignment that relates to the marks you made. So I'm just going to focus down on my table here and show you what I'd like you to do. Um, so one thing that I think is really fun to do with these things is to find smaller um, and interesting kinds of compositions within, the big sheet of paper that you used. Because it was very random, and in lots of ways, you weren't probably paying a lot of attention to, where your marks were going, and that's totally fine because that was not the problem. We were, trying to just enjoy this act of putting down paint and marks in ways that were really expressive, or that responded to the music. So what I have here are two L-shaped pieces of paper. And this is actually an old mat that I just cut in half, but if you don't have that, don't worry, you can easily make something out of paper. Or this is a little lightweight cardboard. It makes it a little stiffer, a little easier to handle. But at any rate, what it does is it acts as a viewfinder. And I love this assignment. I give this assignment a lot because really what it does is helps you to actually, there are a couple things that it does. First of all, when you find a smaller area on your piece of paper, it forces you to look at these marks in a different way. You see them um, well, what happens to me is when I see these marks, I appreciate them more. I see how interesting they are, how um, they really have a vitality, a vibrancy to them. And plus, I can find interesting compositions within this mass of mark making. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to go over each one of the pieces of paper that you have with your viewfinder and separate out your your interesting marks. And actually, I'm going to actually add a piece to this. Rather than finding ones and making some smaller and some bigger, I want you to use um, the same size. So, this is about 4 by 4. That's a very good size to use. It's small enough so that, you can get into some of these smaller areas and really see these, smaller compositions in a way that, sometimes when you're trying to look at a big one, it's just, it's too much. So just take some tape and uh, sort of put these in position so that you don't have to rearrange it all the time. But find this 4 by 4 square, and once you find your 4 by 4 square that you like I like this, and what I want you to look at is composition. I want you to notice things like keeps going right off the edge. These designs that really do consider the edges of your outer border, that don't all sort of end up being in the middle, but that really relate. This is a great way to get a sensitivity to design and to strong composition. It repeats a lot of the same elements. So I have this red, red, red. It's not just one, it's more than one. I've got yellow, yellow, yellow. I've got blue, got blue. So the repetition of these colors makes the whole thing stay together. And of course, there's variety, which you always want. So there's a little bit of variety in the way that this mark is really different. This one here is very different from the other ones that were more brush stroke. We know that this was more of a poured paint. So once you find something you really like, what I'd like you to do is to uh, draw a line around it. Okay, because we're going to cut these out. So once you found one, take this over here. Of course, as you tape it together, it's not so hard to handle. And take it again over your composition, and change the way you're looking at it. Maybe it's better diagonal, maybe it's better, maybe you like more white space. Maybe that would be a good thing to have as a variety. So anyway, this helps us become much more sensitive to, aware of composition. So after you've got a bunch of these cut, and I'm just going to do one more here to show you what I'm talking about, then what we will do is we will create another composition that will be a gridded composition that will incorporate all these many squares that you've found. So I'm going to just stop this recording and come back in a second with some more of these cut out. So I've cut out just 6 of squares from a couple of sheets of paper that I did, for my demonstration for you all the other day. So I don't have a lot of them, but you did make a lot of papers, probably at least 8 sheets of paper with interesting, different kinds of marks responding to the music. I want you to use all of them, and I want you to, cut up. Probably a good goal would be 24 squares, so that you have plenty to work with. And what I'd like you to do is to arrange them, mixing and matching these marks, these shapes that you found, to create what you find an interesting design. And some of them can be 6 squares, some of them could be 8 squares. I want you to figure out for yourself what might be the most interesting arrangement. But this is just to show you, it's really kind of fun to start to play around with the variations that you'll find. You'll probably have some different colors. This one wasn't, it's cut a little too big, but you can make them all the same shape. Just make sure that they're pretty close to being the same shapes, the same dimensions. And then this grid format is a well-known, well-used format by so many artists. It's some, kind of a Bauhausy relationship to, the Bauhaus folks that, painted and made all kinds of wonderful art in the 1920s and 30s before World War II. Yeah, anyway, you can, play with the way these go together and what does make them relate together. How can you make a unified and interesting design when you mix and match these different areas of marks, So this is kind of like, it's a little bit like putting your clothes together, what goes with what, or what is interesting and plays off against different colors. Maybe you really want to go, rather than harmonious, maybe you want to make it, very, very different. So that's your assignment. What I'd love to see you come up with is 3, 4, 5 different arrangements. And all you really need to do is take pictures of these. You don't really need to glue them down unless you want to. But this is really an assignment that plays, first of all, with, the wonderful marks that you made, and helps you really see, because look at that. You see the beauty of that mark when it's isolated, when it's separated out from all the rest of them. You see it much more clearly, and then you begin to appreciate, the kind of liveliness and movement that is just really visible in the line itself, the line quality itself. And then you also have this ability to mix and match them, to play with them together as possibilities for making a grid. So the grid system, as I said, many people use it. And the reason is it really does work. It's such an interesting design tool to kind of make order out of chaos, shall we say. So that's the homework assignment.